So, as David Ben-Gurion, our first prime minister, used to say, if you don't believe in miracles in the Middle East, you're not realistic. So we should be realistic, and we should believe that things that are loyal to the historic truth should happen. And Jerusalem was just the first step. After having few countries that actually started a process of moving the embassies, I think next is Judea and Samaria. The big elephant in the room. For many years, people used to ask me as a representative of a right-wing government, so what is your alternative? In politics, you should always have an answer for this. You cannot just deny one option. You should put on the table your own alternative. And last week, David Friedman, the American ambassador, was quoted in the New York Times. The headline was not what he said. The headline was, Israel can annex part of the West Bank. But actually, using the term annexation is a false terminology. You annex part of a country that is not yours. Judea and Samaria are part of our land, our country, and we should treat it this way. It's a totally different story. This is not a story of annexation. This is a story of realization of our rights in our homeland. Jews are coming from Judea. Isn't it simple? Judea and Samaria, not the West Bank. And I think by using this terminology of sovereignty, of applying Israeli law, not just on the communities. I hear some of the ministers say we should apply it on the communities. But we need to remember, according to the League of Nations, all the territory that is west to the Jordan River can only be by one nation, the Jewish people. And we should remember it according to the international law. I'm going to repeat it. West to the Jordan River, only one nation has the right to accomplish its right as a nation, the Jewish people and the state of Israel. And I want to say something about why it's so important. Many people ask me, so what's going to be the next day? You're going to apply Israeli law on Judea and Samaria. What's going to happen? What's going to change? So I think that the most important thing when we're fighting on, having the ability of telling the truth is the moral clarity. For 52 years, we've been feeding this myth of occupation. We're not occupiers in our own land. We should say it out loud. The myth of occupation must stop. And you cannot stop it only by saying you need to defend your own people in a place that you have rights. You need actually to fulfill those rights. So this is the time, I think, where a window of opportunity was open. The window of opportunity was open because of a few reasons. First of all, I think everyone realizes that the Palestinians are not going to come. They're not going to come to Bahrain, and they're not going to come to sit and negotiate with us. It has nothing to do to the Trump administration. They left the table when the president was actually Barack Obama. So it has nothing to do to the identity of the president. It has nothing to do even to the identity of the prime minister on the Israeli side. I'm sure you heard Ehud Barak before or Ehud Olmert today. They offered everything. So the Palestinians are not interested in a Palestinian state. Let me tell you one more thing. Till the very late 80s, the idea of a Palestinian state was something that both Likud and Labour Party in Israel were against. Everyone thought that between the Jordanian River and the Mediterranean, there is no ability to have another Arab state. They knew it's going to be a failed state, and today we know for sure it would be a terror state. So if the international community is really interested in preventing another Gaza, the last thing that everyone needs here is another Palestinian state. We don't need that. And actually, it's a disaster to the future of the state of Israel, but also to the region. Jordan is not interested, Egypt is not interested, Israel is not interested in a Palestinian state, and it's about time to say the Palestinians are not interested in a Palestinian state. You want to apply the Israeli law and sovereignty on a territory that Jews belong there for 3,000 years. The connection is so deep to Beit El, to Hebron, to Shiloh. Those are the places that make me feel connected to my city, Rehovot. I cannot justify the fact that I go and learn in Tel Aviv or go and study or live in Rehovot if I'm not connected to those places. So after David Friedman said what he said, he also gave another sentence. He said, we will accept the idea that Israel will hold a portion of this territory in certain conditions. And then he asked 3 questions. He said, is it good to Israel? Is it good to the region? And are the benefits better than the problems and challenges it's created? And I think it's for the majority of the people in Israel today. Over 60% of Israelis today supporting sovereignty. They support sovereignty in Area C. It's important to mention. All the Jewish communities are in Area C, but the Jewish communities are just 4% of the land. So most Israelis understand that the C area, where you have just 100,000 Palestinians, is something that should be part of the state of Israel. So I think that it's time for us to move step by step. Let's start from the consensus. If this issue is under a consensus, let's start and do this first step and actually apply Israeli law on Area C and all the Jewish communities. And I think it can be done together with the Americans, and we can have better future to the region. The second issue, is it good to the region? Well, what is the main key word that the international community is looking to the region at the moment? The word is not peace. They realize that the two sides cannot agree because no matter what the Israelis are offering, the Palestinians still demand the right of return. They still demand this idea of flooding Israel with refugees. So what is the solution? We need to move forward stability. And if you want to have stability, you need to have more presence of Israel, that is a democratic country that keeps human rights. If you take Israel out of the game, what do you get? You get Lebanon, you get Gaza, you get more extremists, you get more terror organization, you get rockets on Israeli children and schools. Last week I heard a very impressive Palestinian brave man. He wanted to share his life experience, and this is what he said. His name is Bassam Eid. He's from Jericho. And he said, I wish to live under the Israeli sovereignty since my people are oppressed. They cannot say what they really think. My people don't have dignity. My people don't have prosperity because they live under a Palestinian leadership. He's a brave man. I'm sure he's not representing all Palestinians, but we can never know how many Palestinians actually think like him because they don't live in a free society. So I think that this voice should be sound, just like the Green Prince. I was really inspired from what he said. And we need to think that it's better for the region, it's better for Israel, it's better for the Palestinians. And when we are saying that something is possible, actually happens. So I truly believe that this is the time and this is the political momentum. You heard here 4 ministers that are speaking about it. I think something is happening. The opinion in Israel is already there. Now it's time for us to move forward, to win the elections, and hopefully to do it together with the Trump administration. I really hope that this is going to be the legacy of the 5th Netanyahu's government. Thank you.
Israel bukan mencaplok tepi barat, tetapi menerapkan hukum Israel pada area C di Yudea dan Samaria atau tepi barat yang sudah menjadi wilayah Israel. Jangan salah paham. Salam damai dari Fakta Israel.